A More Beautiful Life podcast, recognizing, appreciating, and integrating earliest life experiences. There are times in our lives when we all yearn for something. More contact with others, a special relationship, a better job, more time to oneself, more respect, more love, more support, or, well, anything. It can all be summed up in wanting a more beautiful life. You just fill in the blank for what equals beauty for you. My specialty is healing our earliest traumas to discover our truest nature. I've been working at understanding this paradigm for a long time, since 1999, when a client remembered her birth during a craniosacral session. She explained to me that she felt healing her birth experience would relieve her lifelong depression. That experience took hold of me with such passion so that years later I'm filling in the gap between our ancestral past and our present lives with recognition of our earliest life experiences starting preconception. It involves appreciating how we adapted to our difficulties and then integrating any overwhelming experiences into our current lives. Welcome to A More Beautiful Life. This podcast includes luminaries from the fields of infant mental health, prenatal and perinatal psychology, colleagues and experts in trauma resolution, advanced body workers, clients who want to share their stories, authors of pivotal books and articles, and people who, in my opinion, have sought out a more beautiful life. Join me, Kate White, and our honored guest as we explore a more beautiful life. Enjoy. Today on the show I have Eileen Sendrey. Eileen is a pre- and perinatal somatic educator and practitioner, registered craniosacral therapist, certified massage therapist, a Castellino school approved womb surround facilitator, and Breema instructor and practitioner. Eileen works with adults, individually and in groups, and families with babies, children, and teens to help understand how early traumatic events show up in the present and how to transform those patterns toward integration and health. Her current work is a culmination of 3 decades of study and work as a bodyworker, yoga teacher, Breema instructor, and community organizer, with a particular emphasis on working with pregnant couples and babies before studying and mentoring with Myrna and Ray Castellino. Eileen's work is based on the understanding that each individual has an inner guidance system to their own optimal health. People don't need to be fixed, just supported in connecting with their own innate rhythms, impulses, and intentions. And today on the show, I have my really good friend and colleague, Eileen Sendrey. Eileen is someone who's trained so similarly to me and does the work that I do. We're friends and colleagues and do so much together. I'm so appreciative of you, Eileen. Really, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kate. And I just really want to appreciate this space for this conversation. And I really appreciate all the spaces for conversations that you create. So I just feel a lot of warmth in my heart right now and just joy to be here with you.
Yeah, me too. I'm sitting here reflecting on all the things that we've done together because we didn't really meet until we did the advanced family training with Ray Castellino. I mean, that was the first time I met you. I didn't really know about you before then. And you and I and Marmot Snetzinger sort of formed a group and deepened into our knowledge and our practice of being with families with this thing that we love so much, the working with families through the Castellino lens, just understanding that babies are sentient and family work is so important. Um, but then we went on and we've done the hearth together and we've explored so many things and we stay in peer supervision together all these years, so many years later, that we still develop and have each other's back in so many ways. And so I'm wondering, Eileen, if you would like to share a little bit about yourself, like some of your history and the things that you want people to know about you.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, as I'm sitting here, as I was listening to you, what is coming up for me is me as a little girl. And I am bilingual. I grew up in the United States and Finland. And so there is a way that who I became is really informed by being bicultural. I don't know how you would say that, just two cultures that really impacted me. And at a very young age, looking back, I didn't have words for it, but I had very high empathy and a lot of, at 8 years old, I was following what was happening in the world. I was very aware of suffering. And I remember writing at 10 years old that I wanted to end suffering in the world. And so it was, and I was very tuned into people with wisdom. That was when I think about who were like celebrities I was interested in at a very young age. I was interested in people who had wisdom and were um, interested in positive change in the world. So that was something that I was very aware of, like both feeling the suffering and also seeing that there were people who were actively doing something about it. Now I have more words for it. I don't think I had the awareness to frame it the way I am now. So this is more my older self looking back at my younger self. And I feel like this current working in pre and perinatal somatics, working with families, is such a natural uh, evolution from who I am essentially as a personality and as a individual in the world, and then also all of my experiences of just all the things that I've done, community building, uh, healing work. And I just remember in my 20s having a sense that I wanted to help children. And I think it's very remarkable how we have these intentions that come at a very young age and we don't actually understand them. We feel impulses, we have intentions, and we don't really understand them until we get older and wiser and start really feeling the direction of our lives and our interests, and those interests develop and mature. And so I'm very satisfied with where I am today in my work. Um, I feel like it combines all of who I am, my gifts, my attributes, and all of my learning and experience.
Mm, yes, I would agree. I mean, also just people know like you are a Breema person, which is a bodywork modality. I know that really informs your worldview and a lot. I really enjoy your body-centered practices that you've brought to the hearth and that they're very authentic and they come from you so deeply from within. And then, discovering the pre-perinatal somatics, studying with Myrna Martin the way I did also, and then moving on to study with Ray. and become a womb surround facilitator, just approved by the Castellino Corporation, which is a hard thing to do. It's hard to be the approved facilitator. You have to sacrifice a lot to
Hmm.
do that. And like you've really been on you stayed the course, as they say. You went the long mile. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I always enjoyed watching your work with children, the play, so fun and so also deep. So I know you have a lot of skills, and now you've joined me in a lot of ways. Like we did some, presentations for the Castellino Corporation, and now we are creating these advanced modules in the integrated prenatal and perinatal dynamics. And I really would like to talk about those with you so that people can get a handle on like really what the blueprint and also the pre-perinatal somatics is good for in terms of resolving or integrating our biggest challenges that can run so invisibly in our lives. And like a lot of my podcasts are with guests who understand the early layers. Um,
Hmm.
but we haven't yet really talked in depth with so people can understand more what are double binds and why do we talk about them so much in pre-perinatal work. So I'm wondering if you would start our conversation that way with what are they and why do we talk about them so much?
Yeah. Well, what I think I'll start with is a really deep-seated knowing that I have gained from my Breema practice. Breema is a practice of being present in the body and in our lives. And in Breema, there is one of the principles is no judgment. So the direction is to create a non-judgmental atmosphere where for for yourself, relating to yourself, but also with another person. And so what I want to begin with as I speak about double binds is actually my complete trust that this person is coming to me with challenges, but that there is inherent health and wisdom, that the fact that this person has come to see me is that health is wanting to emerge. It's wanting to be known. And this challenge that somebody has come to me with, or if I'm with a family member or a friend, that I'm supporting somebody non professionally, I know that there is something healthy, something vital, something wise that wants to emerge. And so when I look at the bind, I see I'm also seeing the health wanting to emerge.
Mhm.
So that's what I want to begin with.
Well, I have two responses to that. And, one of them is how do you know health is emerging? But also, just to define the bind for people out there listening, like
Hmm.
Ray Castellino, I think Ray Castellino made a lot of wonderful contributions to the field of understanding what has been called birth psychology, then his insistence on this is not psychology, this is a somatic space, an implicit memory, somatic. It has to be from the body, not just the psyche.
Hmm.
And so he developed, lots of tools that we learn in long-term training. I mean, those very comprehensive. And it takes time to really integrate and learn all those, at
Hmm.
least 10 years to become proficient at them. And then what he added these womb surround, which is a wonderful technique and probably one of the best for helping integrate early layers. And then he really, with his partnership with Anna Chitty, developed the blueprint more. And And he added up from very early the double bind practice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
double binds are a place in our system where we feel like we no way out. There's no good avenue to proceed. And I often call it the stuck place. But it's more than just stuckness. There can be a lot of feeling to it, a lot of life death type of feeling or urgency or a big sense of betrayal or horror connected to our experience. And the nervous system will have several different responses to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
it gets repeated and repeated and repeated until somebody like you or me or someone who understands binds can be with them. And then we have protocols that we've learned and that we apply to the work, which we're going to teach our students in the advanced modules. There's three of them, and learning how to recognize them, learning what skills they are, learning protocols, and then understanding their application to the modern birth setting.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the things that we teach in the on our integrated prenatal and perinatal dynamics program. And I'm so honored that you get a chance, that you are with me, not get a chance, not that you've made a commitment with me, Eileen,
Mm-hmm.
because it does take commitment. It's not about suddenly having a full house of people who want to learn. We just do it because we love it.
Mm-hmm.
And we often make jokes about it, like this is how we party, this is
Mm-hmm.
our good space, this is what we dig in and feel good about in our work. And so I do remember in our first module that we've written together, you say to participants, look for health emerging. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you could describe that for our listeners.
Well, thank you for all that you said about binds. So I really think that the understanding of double binds and how to work with them is what is really valuable about our work. And I actually wish that every teacher and therapist and medical professional knew about double binds and how to work with it. So I appreciate all that you said. And a lot of how we track our sessions is by when we're sitting with a individual or we're sitting with a group or sitting with a family, is that I'm tracking them both by what is said when the people arrive about their intentions and their challenges. And then I'm also feeling what's happening somatically, what's happening energetically. So I'm tracking people by, you know, skin changes, facial expressions, postures, movements, but then also what do I feel in the energy field? And we are all electrical beings and we resonate with each other. And when we're in a room with each other, we can feel what's happening with another person or with the group. So, one answer to health emerging is there's a felt sense of it that I have. It feels like an opening, it feels like a settling, it feels like um, a lifting of tension because sitting in double bind tension fields, it's very tense. You're in like a tension with the person or with the family. And then all of a sudden there's an easing up and like I can see my hands that are making this opening gesture because that's how it feels like all of a sudden an opening happens. And then when I feel that opening, I'm listening to what is being said, and often there's insight that comes from the person. I'm really wanting the opening and the insight to come from the client or in the family field, because that's part of the protocol for double binds is that I'm not coming in to rescue someone. And this is actually a principle of Breema too. I'm not trying to fix somebody. I'm not trying to rescue somebody. I love that about our work, that I'm holding space for somebody to have an insight about their challenges and to integrate their challenges, but then to also feel that opening, that settling. And a lot of times there'll be this big exhale that comes, and it could even happen in the group that there's a big exhale. And so those are the signs that health is emerging. And I feel like we're kind of swimming in this murky water, and then all of a sudden there's this little I always think of it kind of like diving into an underwater cave that opens up into light. That's how I picture it in myself. And so, and what the health is that emerges, it depends on the person's intention. Because again, I'm not trying to figure out how to fix somebody. I'm just listening. I'm listening to their intentions. I'm listening to what is unfolding and then responding to that and then reflecting to them when I feel that opening. I'll say, I can suddenly feel a settling. Can you feel that? And then usually it then leads into one thing leads into another, and then something opens for the person. And the longer they've been working with me or in this kind of work, not maybe specifically me, the more they have the capacity to actually go with, to open up into whatever is emerging.
And it's excellent. Like, I feel like really helping people understand the tension field. Like, we'll be in sessions, people will come because they feel stuck or they feel frustrated or they feel like um, they want their life to go in a different way. Or often people come to pre-perinatal somatics because they've tried other things and nothing has helped, and or they get a sense that they have these implicit memories, and you can't access it through talking about it. You have to
Mhm.
access it through the memory in the body.
Mhm.
So like that's what we studied exquisitely for so many years. I mean, I'm 30 years into it now, and just really understanding these early layers and how even the bind itself, like this tension field, usually it's two or more things. If I do this, if I go this way, it will hurt, or if I go that way, it will hurt. There's no good way. There is a tension field that emerges, and you can feel it as a practitioner. It feels to me very tight. I'm very stuck. Breath is shallow. Um, and so really helping people get that, okay, the bind usually started before they got there as a human, before they were
Mhm.
conceived. If this chronic place, that then it repeats until, it gets pretty big until, we can really understand. So this really needs to be addressed. And
Mhm.
so I just feel like when I'm working with the tension field, um, they're naming that, okay, this is happening now. I feel it. Do you feel it? I'm wondering, how is it for you, Eileen? Do you feel the field like I do, that tension place, the two poles creating this place what feels unmovable?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. As I'm listening to you, I really relate to the tension that I really felt, before I did this work. I really felt that tension. And when we start this work, we don't really have words for it. It just, people come to me because, as you know, my child is misbehaving, or my infant can't settle, or I feel anxious, or I feel like I can't progress in my life or in relationships. So there's often some kind of challenge that people are perceiving in behavior of children, in how I feel. And so usually what happens is there's this idea that there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with my child, there's something here that needs to be fixed. And just as you're saying, sometimes double binds they're called ancestral double binds. that these are really something that came from ancestral influences from even before we were born. And so it's just this big blob of tension and confusion and stuckness and hopelessness that can just feel like this big impenetrable blob. And when I sit with somebody for the first time, I may not know the specifics, but I can feel that there are these layers that come all the way from the ancestors to the present through their conception, gestation, birth, and then the life that unfolds from there. And I can feel it in the tension in my body. I can feel that there's this blob. And then I help people bit by bit to understand that there are challenges that we have in the present, but then there is also just this energy and tension and confusion and all those feelings that come from all the way from the history. They kind of compress into this big blob, and I can feel it when I sit with them. You know, that's one of the things that's so important about our training is we learn how to sit in a tension field and be curious and explore rather than feeling like we have to run in and rescue or fix or change this person's life, but to how to start to um, decompress all of those layers and then start to pull out one layer, one thread at a time to help people understand all the layers. And I think that what's so important is that I'm sitting there with the eye that there is both health emerging here, and there's also something really did happen. Something really did happen to this person. Something really did happen to their ancestors. There's actually nothing inherently wrong with this person or this family, but they're just caught in these layers. And it's just like a one foot in front of the other, just like one thread at a time, unwinding this blob of tension and all those different qualities of the bind.
Right. Well, it's relieving to listen to you because I can just feel the blob, but I can also just feel the soothing sensations of someone being present with all these this anatomy of the double bind.
Mm-hmm.
And in our training, I usually teach like the very first module about the ancestral, the idea that there's something from the ancestors that may come into the present and we can differentiate. That was about them, that's them, and this is me. And that's sort of what I call double bind light, just simple differentiation. And it is true, like when we get caught up as practitioner in the bind, we will speed up and we will feel like we have to fix it or argue with it or make it somehow different when that's just not how we do it. So learning how to sit and then be able to really start to disentangle, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to go at the pace that the person can go who's sitting in front of
Mm-hmm.
you. It's all of Castellino's work, which I really love so much about Ray, is that he teaches from the inside out, and that is what we have to do also, and to help people understand the anatomy of these binds, whether it's two competing sort of very high activations. It can be sympathetic arousal or parasympathetic shutdown. They're both there, the foot on the gas, foot on the brake, however you want to call it. And somatic experiencing speak, we call it global high intense activation or GIA. And there are all these symptoms that come with the bind, but spinning and looping and being highly activated and then shut down in the course of short periods of time, and feeling, like you can't stay with yourself, you jump out
Mm-hmm.
of yourself. And as practitioner, we're able to sit there and name all these things. Okay, slow the pace, keeping in connection with the person, allowing there to be some experiences. And I know that Ray gave us protocols, and and working with groups and working one-on-one. So I don't know if you want to just touch on them, because I know we're going to be teaching them in our
Mm-hmm.
advanced modules, but I wouldn't mind hearing if you could summarize.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
what would you want to say to people listening, um, if you could?
Yeah. I really appreciated all the qualities of the bind that you were describing. And one of the things I really teach my groups, my clients, I work on it myself, is that um, the bind layers, when we have our own bind layers, when we're in relationship with somebody else, we're feeling their bind layers. When we're in a group, like let's say you're a teacher, there are all the bind layers in the group that are all showing up in the group field. Again, we're electrical, energetic beings and we vibrate with each other. And so, as a teacher, as a facilitator, as someone working with somebody therapeutically, we want to create a coherent, balanced vibrational field to which the group or the individual can resonate with. And so part of that for myself, as the leader, a really important tool is naming. You mentioned that. And so part of the blob, part of that undifferentiated, like knotted up blob, is that there's just this felt but unnamed, just layers and layers of tension and suffering, and um, just different things that happened and unresolved traumatic events, ancestrally and in our own life. So as we start to slowly over time, and what will be named depends on the particular intention for that day. So we just take one little bite-sized piece at a time. And so I just, as I'm feeling the tension field, as I'm listening to what the person is saying, I will reflect and name what I'm perceiving, what I'm curious about. And then I help the person also start to name um, just the layers, and we really want to start to do this for children. I mean, children can be taught to do this at a very young age. And to just name just the different layers of the historical experience, the different layers of a personal experience, or just what am I experiencing right now? Some sessions we're not even into any kind of content, but we're just following um, somatically tension and naming what is being experienced, what is being felt, and then having me there or having a group there to really receive that storytelling so that the person can understand what happened to them individually and ancestrally and culturally. And then also to be able to, through storytelling, what we call integrate it or digest it. And then something starts to, again, the health emerging, what we talked about, once somebody starts to feel the support of the therapist or the group, then suddenly something new will start to, again, I have this gesture of this opening hands, like in that space, in that meeting of that story, something new starts to emerge. And even, in an ancestral story, I know for myself, I was first identified more with the pain of the story. But then as the health starts to open, I just feel, just right now, something came to mind, an experience I had where suddenly I felt so much love and appreciation for my ancestors and their capacities. Um, and so that's the possibility as we just unwind these little threads, that then more and more joy, ease, pleasure, happiness, even in challenging times, becomes available.
Right. Good. Well, I feel like when I first learned about the binds, you know, there was one protocol. Now there's several, which is nice to have. You can have a toolbox when you're heading toward the bind. The very first one is so important, the naming. And somebody will say, "What? I have a what?" And there's a name for it, which suddenly things begin to
Mhm.
settle. And then, Ray originally, when I first met him, he was teaching how to go from one side to the other of the two poles that are holding this stuck place. And John Chitty would say, you get the pendulum swinging to relieve fixation. It's a fixed state that is
Mhm.
a very embedded. Often it has, like I said, layers, like you have described, ancestral, and then it could be something prenatal, something birth, after birth, and then they begin to repeat as the pattern really wants to be integrated,
Mhm.
giving it a sense of agency itself. The pattern will just repeat, and so we're when we get, usually it's the adult, but the family comes also. Family gets stuck in binds, and like the work of the integrated prenatal and perinatal dynamics is really meant to go right to that, the birth sequence or the prenatal or around conception, just working with that and afterbirth also, like feeding challenges are especially bindy, but really helping identify those places right away so they don't fester, um, in the family, in the person,
Mhm.
but really able to, as practitioners, really helping people find the middle way. Like first, it was the middle way that would arise. Now there's an array of health, I would say,
Mhm.
can arise out of working with a bind state. And we do have tools that have developed over time. And just to name them, like experiencing the two sides or exploring what's good about the two
Mhm.
sides, that can really lead to blueprint easily, or getting underneath the tension field, which I've found people can do. They can drop into the blueprint state that are underneath all of that.
Mhm.
Um, and then our presence and inquiry is what really helps them be curious, which is again is a blueprint state.
Mhm. Mhm.
Noticing what happens to the tissue in the body, because that's the way through is the feeling states.
Mhm.
So that's sort of the synopsis that we'll be teaching in our advanced modules, like how to be with all of that, and really practicing, because I don't know about you, Eileen, but every time I went for supervision with Ray, it was always, how can I be more efficient in working with double binds? It takes time to
Mhm.
learn. It's best if you can practice in a cohort, because there can be group dynamics also that Ray taught, especially working in the small groups that we do
Mhm.
in the rounds, and the benefit of working with another practitioner and helping yourself learn a team approach. And Ray was really good at that. And
Mhm.
I kind
Mhm.
of feel like, is there anything more you'd like to add for now? Because I feel like we can stop here and return to some of these themes in future
Mhm.
podcasts. So I'm wondering if you would like to just add any more about this subject.
Yeah, there are two threads that come up for me in just what you said. And the first one that, as I was listening to you talk about all the different ways that we um, work with double binds, is that, as I was saying before, one of the tools is naming. And you even mentioned just now many of the ways we name things. And so part of unwinding that blob of tension and suffering and despair is that as practitioners, we learn pattern recognition. We learn about all of the things that happen ancestrally and in birth and gestation and conception and afterbirth, so that not only are we naming layers, but there is um, an understanding of both optimal, healthier, like there's no perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. We talk about good enough. And so we understand both healthy processes and we understand what happens that's interrupting or non-optimal. And it always depends on the individual. So that part of that is what the tools that we're holding and the understanding that we're holding to witness what is arising. So to help name from our experience and understanding of all the different parts of the sequence, um, from ancestral influences to the present. And I could just go on forever about that. So I'm going to stop with that. But then the other part of Ray Castellino's protocol is adding resource, adding support. And so for me to be able to work with double binds with other people, I actually need to have resource myself. You mentioned that Marmot and my that, how we meet regularly and support each other. And I have another group that I meet with. And I really think that having those layers of support for myself adds resource for the person or the family or the group that I'm working with. So Ray was so brilliant at just understanding that some layers are so big that one person working with another person or a group, they can't hold all those layers. So resource is needed for the individual and the family, but also for the practitioner, facilitator, teacher. And so that is one of the things I appreciate about the understanding of integrating traumatic events that we have in pre and perinatal somatics, is that I myself, as a practitioner, need to be held. And then that in turn adds resource and support for the family group or individual that we're working with. And that's what I appreciate about our relationship so much, is I just really feel that support. And also, for me, I have a very strong connection to essence, God. And I also think, for me, that's an essential part of adding resource, is that, I feel both my support people at my back, but then I feel essence or spirit or the divine also at my back. And so I just wanted to mention adding resource, adding support. And that's what I teach families too, is like how to discover what they need as support, what they need as resource to be able to create the space to walk through the bind.
Right. That's beautiful. Thank you for adding that, Eileen. It's true. Um, the the blueprint is what also always present. And I once asked Anna Chitty, how do I help people feel their blueprint? And she said, you feel yours.
Mhm.
That's enough. And really believing that, we are these immense, amazing beings that come into form, and
Mhm.
our essence is impacted, obscured by these things that sort of coalesce and gather around us as we come in, but also our early experiences without enough support.
Mhm.
And so there are lots of ways that we can start to feel wiggle room in the bind
Mhm.
with enough support, and then the blueprint begins to move. Things begin to move.
Mhm.
The stuckness, and certainly feeling enough support, and also just dropping into our own blueprint, divine, our divinity, our consciousness, our whatever it is that you want to call it, but it's
Mhm.
there in all of us all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like how you describe that, and even that hand gesture of that's exactly what we're doing. It's like there's the stuck blob that we think is real, and then what we're creating is space
Right.
so that the person and us with the person or the group can also feel that wiggling start to happen.
And
Yeah.
then the health emerging takes over, and
Mhm.
running water clears itself, is what Randolph Stone said. And
Yeah.
that way the health is always there. And when John was sick, John Chitty, he said, please see me in my health. And when people ask me what should I do, I said, let's just see the person in their health and know that it's always there. And I like how you started our conversation with, well, people come to see me, that's the health. The
Mhm.
health is there, and the health is emerging, and that's our job, is to help that. But once you begin to feel the movement begin, then the health can often take the process, and it becomes
Mhm.
less defined. But if there are lots of stack, what Ray would call it a stack, but the layers of challenge, it can take the presence of another person or a group, especially
Mhm.
group
Mhm.
work, very potent when working with these states.
Yeah.
And they can really move all these layers, and it doesn't take a lot then.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's why the womb surround is such an effective tool
Mhm.
to working with these binds that come so early in our history, in our bodies, in our cells, and in our lineage, and in our
Mhm.
field.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for talking with me today, Eileen, and I wonder if you might want to say, what makes your life more beautiful?
What makes my life more beautiful? Um, there's so many beautiful things, but right now, what I'm even feeling is my connection with my body, and um, and just the pleasure I feel in just being in a body. I can feel it right now. There's something warm and connected that I'm feeling just from this conversation. And so I I'm just really enjoying that I can feel it. And particularly as somebody who I spend a lot of my life kind of disconnected and dissociated. And so I what makes my life so beautiful right now is that I can feel the pleasure of just being here. And even when things are hard, sometimes I just feel the pleasure of being here, even in those hard things. And so I think that there are many things, but I'll just share that right now.
Well,
Yeah.
it was certainly been a pleasure to talk with you today, and we'll
Yeah.
have you back more to talk about the bind to help people really understand. I think
Yeah.
this is a good first little dip.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Thank you so
coming.
much. Thank you.
You've been listening to A More Beautiful Life podcast. To support our show, please go to Patreon /A More Beautiful Life.